confused, everyone.
Let's get dangerous.
This is so cool.
I know.
It feels so right.
Jake Ciely.
I'm sorry, who is this?
Nice try, Moonman. Pretending not to know. Earth's greatest mastermind.
You just made the list.
I thought you said that was a myth.
Just because it's a myth doesn't mean it's not true.
If you all blindly follow my plan, we may have a chance.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No. Burn.
Game on, you Ducks. All right, you ready? You think we can get through running backs as an entirety today in 10 minutes? Let's go. The first tier, Bijan, Barkley, and Gibbs. If you want to take any of the three first, any of the three last, I'm okay with it. And yes, I'm okay with Saquon Barkley. He doesn't have the same 400 touches that we've seen from other running backs. It's not like he got hit on 50% of those touches. I mean, hit. You know what I'm trying to say. And Derrick Henry gets a pass for being a freak of nature, and I know Saquon Barkley has injury concerns throughout the past. If you don't want to take him, that's fine. I'm just not going to be scared off by the 400 touches. Similarly, I'm not scared off of Christian McCaffrey, who could be the 101 top player in all of fantasy in a tier of his own. I would take him in the middle of the first round as my fourth running back. Again, if you don't want to take the risk, but he's one of the few, and I mean super few, amount of players who could average 22 or more fantasy points per game. Derrick Henry, you know him. Kyron Williams, I have higher than most. The contract is here, and yet people still don't want to come around for somebody who gets volume in the Sean McVay offense. Josh Jacobs, injuries behind him again, so a lot of opportunity there. Ashton Genty right behind him. I love the upside, love the talent. One of the best since Barkley, the best since Zeke, blah, 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 blah. I just worry a little bit about the receiving and touchdown equity for the Raiders as a whole for him, but he's inside my top 10, just nitpicking there. Bucky Irvin, you know him, you're excited. Jonathan Taylor, I've mentioned before, injury risk, 3 straight seasons, but he's still an RB1, and the production's there. Achane has moved down. This calf injury is concerning, and now there's talk that they might bring in Brian Robinson or somebody else, which is just concerning for what is the health of Achane. This actually might slide further back. Chase Brown, hey, nobody got involved in this backfield. The day 3 pick in Taj Brooks, who I think is a lot like Chase Brown. And now we have Samaje Perine as a pass-catching option only. We got what we wanted, everybody. Nobody's interfering with Chase Brown's workload, and nobody wants him as an RB1. I will take him as one all day long. James Cook also got his contract. There will be some touchdown regression? Wasky Wabbit will have some touchdown regression. But he will still be a fringe RB1. We just would love to see a little bit more in the yards department. Kenneth Walker is going to continue to slide down if he doesn't get more time on the field. There are reports, as I've mentioned before, that Kenneth Walker wants to be used by the Seahawks as a bell cow, but you can't be a bell cow if you can't stay on the field or get on the field. Hampton, more intriguing by the day, the longer Najee Harris stays out. Kamara and Connor, you know them. Travion Henderson, you know him by now if you've been listening to me. I think he is top 20. I think he has a ton of passing upside in this offense for the Patriots, and he is explosive as they come. Chuba Hubbard, Pacheco, hopefully he's back to 100%. I actually think he would be going even higher if we never saw him last year with the injury optimism people like to throw around, but yet we saw him falter. But look at who the people are behind him. I'm willing to gamble on Pacheco. DeAndre Swift, he's fine. Breece Hall, yes, down this far. I do think the split is concerning. We'll get to Braylon Allen in a little bit. RJ Harvey should finish higher than this if Sean Payton gives him any type of Kamara workload, but that's the question about somebody else we'll talk about in a little bit. Tony Pollard's at 24. Hey, guess what? With the volume, all the volume pretty much last year until the end of the season, he checked in as RB24 in fantasy points per game. I had him lower before the Spears injury, and now I moved him up a little bit, but I'm still not overly excited for Tony Pollard. David Montgomery, you know him. Tyrone Tracy moved up in my ranks over the preseason because Scadaboo can't get on the field. And for a rookie who can't get on the field with an injury, Tracy has been moving up. Aaron Jones, think he's going to kind of fall off. There will be some talk about Jordan Mason here in a second. Caleb Johnson, I would actually let somebody else take Caleb Johnson and get frustrated in the first few weeks and then trade for him. He has some feeling of Chase Brown. Now, he does not have Chase Brown's passing game upside, but the slow start to last season and then everybody dropped Chase Brown, I think Caleb Johnson's going to be Najee Harris or in the Najee Harris role, but the Kenneth Gainwell use and Jalen Warren being the vet, I think there'll be more of a mix to start the season. So like I said, either try to get him late or let somebody else draft early and try to trade, or even, hey, they might drop him. Speaking of Jalen Warren, right behind him, the safest of the Steelers running backs, in my opinion, Travis Etienne, I still think has the most upside. If he is the guy, this could be a split backfield, but at least he has the passing game version of the upside here. J.K. Dobbins, hey, could be the lead. I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I would be shocked. I wouldn't be surprised. Why do I always stumble over that one? J.K. Dobbins could be the lead. There you go. Javonte Williams, can he even be 90% of what he was? Maybe. And if he is, then he's going to be an RB2, and this is a little bit low. The big name, Ja'Cory, Bill, Krosky, Merritt. If Brian Robinson is gone as expected, he could be Brian Robinson, which is a low-end RB2. The concern is Austin Eckler is going to be Austin Eckler, and he is going to get the passing game work and was productive last year when healthy. And then there's talk of Chris Rodriguez being the short yard, goal line option. That's the worst-case scenario. Friggin' committee. We hate it. We hate committees. But the upside is if Krosky, Merritt, and Eckler are a 1-2 punch, then you get that Brian Robinson value. That's why he's in this range right in front of Judkins, who, yes, legal situation's cleared up, but the NFL's not, and hasn't signed yet as of this show. So, yes, he should be the lead, but it's a questionable offense and questions of how soon he gets into that workload because he hasn't been with the team. Nick Chubb can lead the Texans. Whoop-de-doo. You might be moving on from him 6 weeks into the season, but if you took some risks and you need somebody to start for those first few weeks, he's a fine option. Zach Charbonnet, I had higher until we got the report that the Seahawks wanted Walker to be a bell cow, but as I mentioned earlier, the more Walker doesn't get out there, the more he's going to fall and Charbonnet is going to rise. Brian Robinson, hopefully he ends up in a good situation. It would actually be great if he ended up on the Texans, but that's a risky one. I would still take him as an RB3 on the upside that his new team gives him the same kind of workload he had with the Commanders. Tyler Algier, the most disrespected handcuff in all of fantasy. Scadaboo, who has fallen, as I mentioned, because of the injury. I do think they could have a 50-50 split, similar to the Steelers from last year once Scadaboo is healthy and into the mix. Jaden Blue, I think, is a nice piece, similar to Jaylen Warren, as in could have a lot of passing game upside, could be a nice 50-50 split type of option, but I don't think he'd ever be a true bell cow lead, but I think he's a nice little sleeper to take. Tank Bigsby, if he's splitting 50-50, hurts because he's not huge in the passing game. If he is the lead, he could probably get that RB2-3 value. Jordan Mason, one of my favorite stashes. You could get him and actually see potentially a split to start the season, and even him take over that backfield. It would not shock me if he took over the backfield. Dylan Sampson, the pass catcher for the Browns. And as mentioned, Judkins still isn't out there, and nobody wants to take Sampson. I know it's the Browns, which is why I'm a little down on Judkins. But, hey, at least we know Sampson's out there and a pass catcher. Austin Eckler, as I mentioned, intriguing. Braylon Allen for the Jets, as I talked about on another podcast, the running back that succeeds a lot of times next to Fields is the bigger option as they try to offset Fields' ability at the goal line with the big guy next to him. And that touchdown equity is why Braylon Allen is intriguing as a side piece to Breece Hall, but also, I mean, he might get more touchdowns and be pushing in pure fantasy value, even though Breece Hall will be the pass catcher. Tajay Spears was higher, as mentioned, before the injury. Still somebody to take on your bench. Najee Harris, if he does, I mean, he's going to be the backup at this point to Hampton if something happened to Hampton, but is he ever going to get on the field? I know that stop playing with fireworks. I mentioned that before. Ramondre Stevenson, way down the list. We saw Antonio Gibson get work. I think Stevenson is just losing the appeal for the Patriots. Isaac Guerendo, another one of the best backups in the NFL. If something were to happen to McCaffrey, maybe you don't buy in, then buy Guerendo. Ray Davis, backup to if something happens to James Cook. Rashad White, he is still the backup if something happens to Bucky Irving, although he is a little dinged up right now. Rico Dowdle did his thing with the Cowboys and now backing up Hubbard. Jalen Wright and Ollie Gordon are back-to-back as of right now. The Achane situation bears monitoring, as does Jalen Wright. If he hasn't lost a job yet, I still take him on the chance that they gave him every opportunity to have the number 2 role. But Ollie Gordon is on his heels. I actually think Ollie Gordon is the better fit alongside of Achane. I think he has more of Mostert to him, even without that, 25 yards per hour, that would be all of a fast guy. Mile per hour speed, explosiveness, but I think Gordon fits, especially similar to the Braylon Allen situation, as somebody they can turn to at the goal line. DJ Giddens is one of my favorite handcuffs. Jonathan Taylor mentioned 3 years in a row he's been hurt. Giddens would have top 20 value if something happened to Taylor. Shipley behind Barkley. Taj Brooks behind Chase Brown. Woody Marks taking a flyer on his just young, explosive appeal, but the Texan situation bears monitoring, as mentioned, which Joe Mixon, there he is, finally, at 60. As you can tell by that ranking, kind of want nothing to do with Joe Mixon. We have no idea if and when and how he will look when he's back. Kenneth Gainwell with the Steelers, Brashad Smith, who I think can have some Jerick McKinnon-type value for the Chiefs. There's Jerome Ford, depending on that situation. Roshan Johnson is fine. Bashal Tootin, I say deep sleep. I let somebody else draft Tootin unless they cut ETN before the season starts, just because I think Tootin is going to be the third option. Even if it's a committee, you're not going to be able to use him. Somebody will get frustrated and have to drop him. Blake Corum looks to be the backup behind Kyron Williams as the slight edge now, though two spots down. Jarquez Hunter, I would have no problem taking both. Kendra Miller looks like the backup for now. Could be Devin Neal with time. Manon Guy, I think, is a very interesting potential value. for the Bears. If it's a split with Swift instead of Roschon Johnson, and then if something were to happen to Swift, Jordan James, hey, if it's not Isaac Rendo, then James is the next man up. It's the 49ers backfield. Raheem Mostert, Kareem Hunt, Keaton Mitchell, Devin Neal, Miles Sanders. Now we're into the wet fart territory. If I'm down in this range, I'll take a flyer on Trevor Etienne and maybe Isaiah Davis because they continue with that split workload the entire season if something happened to Breece Hall or even Allen. And that's kind of really about it. I can't believe we got through all of them. I slightly went over. The Madden codes, I promise, they are coming after I get through the wide receiver version of this. That one's going to be tough because we're going to have more names. So until next time, that is the definition of the all-in speedrun. Enjoy.